and I'm excited to have you as our guest today, and also to have our guest join us. She is Vivian Lim, who is the CEO of Beaze. Hi, Vivian. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
And
Thank
as
you,
always, welcome Carlos Ponce, who's my co-host and co-producer to the show. Looking forward to our first show of this week. We've got 3 lined up. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020, first day of the fall. So here we go. Let's get to know you a little bit, Vivian, before we go into the topic of the show today, which is an interesting topic about networking. Let's get to know you a little bit. Please introduce yourself. Thanks, Vivian.
Yeah, so Vivian Lim, I'm the founder of Beaze. I came from product management from several companies you may have heard of, Microsoft, AWS, and most recently at Google in brand advertising. I'm a mother of 2, been in the industry for about 15 years, and super excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, those are tiny little companies. Thanks for mentioning them.
Yeah, tiny little companies.
It's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about Beaze. What gave birth to this idea? And I'm curious about the name. Like, tell us a little bit, why Beaze?
So the name of Beaze came from the idea of business ease. It started off when I was trying to become a real estate mogul. Back in 2008, you may have recalled the last time the market crashed, and there was no place for me to park my money. So I decided that real estate was super cheap, and that was a good place to go. And in that time, trying to manage these investment properties, I needed vendors to kind of keep it afloat because I still had my day job. So at that point, I realized it started to become more and more painful to find vendors. And then the de facto moment happened to me when I was on vacation. So I was surfing. And then when I came back for a break, somebody told my gardener called me and said, "Hey, there's water flowing out of your garages. You should do something about that." And I said, "I can't, I'm somewhere else." So he popped it open, looked inside and saw, oh my God, there was black mold like 5 feet off the ground, almost all the way to the ceiling. Something had exploded clearly. And he's like, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I said, "Well, shut off the water." And then I had to basically figure out if I could go back to the mainland and tackle this myself, or just keep calling vendors to go and mitigate, since my gardener had keys to the place and could let them in. And it took almost 80 phone calls before I found somebody who was even willing to come and service my unit. And then I had to do that same sort of dance again when I had to find a general contractor to put the place together as well. Because at that point, even though they had taken out all the damage, there was basically no way that was livable. And that's when I realized, I said, someone's got to have a better way of contacting vendors and getting stuff done. And that's sort of the genesis of Beaze. I wanted it to become easy to find vendors.
Okay, so that totally resonates. Anyone who's ever had any kind of trouble in their home, especially when you're out of town, you kind of feel helpless. So
yeah, exactly.
So okay, so you took a personal challenge and turned it into an opportunity. I want to get to know what Beaze does, how it works, how it solved that issue that you just described. But before we do that, let's introduce the show. Carlos, what's the topic that Vivian has chosen for today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tulio, and thank you, Vivian, for being with us today. We're going to be speaking about networking during COVID, or don't leave money on the table. I'm looking forward to this one. In other words, we're going to be answering the question on how can you grow your client base without Zoom meetings? This is where it gets interesting, folks. So Vivian, first thing, let me ask you something. Why did you choose this particular topic? Why did you think it was relevant? Although the question might not be necessary, but still, why did you think it was good to this topic? This topic was good to talk about today.
Because right now, I think everybody's basically trapped at home. If you're on the West Coast, it's been on fire on top of it being COVID, and you can't really network and find customers the way that you normally would. The funny thing is there are actually lots and lots of high value contracts out there. Beaze currently has an active integration with the US federal and state government. There are over 700,000 leads per year, and it's worth $960 billion. And those dollars are just sitting there waiting to be spent, and yet people are not going after them. So when I say that you don't necessarily have to sit on a Zoom meeting to find out about business, literally there are silos of this information available. You just need to know which silo to tap and how to get in. Beaze is one of those options.
Thank you, Vivian. Appreciate it. Tulio.
Okay, so how does that relate to networking?
So when you go to a networking event, it's pretty common that people will like give a quick introduction. You don't know who's going to show up. And then sometimes you walk away, you're like, I spent a whole hour or two of my life trying to meet a bunch of people I had no idea had any relevance with the things that I do. Is that a good use of time? And the truth is, it probably isn't. And because, you know, if there's maybe like a door fee that's actually trying to screen people out and get rid of some of those irrelevant people, that's one thing. But even so, even when you have door fees and such, there's a very high likelihood you're going to get dumped into a collective of people that have no overlap with what you're trying to achieve. And if that's the case, are you really spending your time well? And then you jump on Zoom calls and you continue to do this. And it's like, well, where are all the hours in the day going? Am I really making a dent in my customer acquisition initiatives and my business development initiatives? And the truth is, it's not.
So Vivian, I think obviously that resonates for a lot of people, especially today. I think some of us have Zoom fatigue. I personally refuse to get on every call as a Zoom call or video call because I like the idea of being able to walk around and not have to stare at a screen to have I don't think it's natural to have conversations that way, but that's me. So how are you proposing a change to this sort of cyclical approach that people are finding today, you know, networking, connecting virtually on LinkedIn or wherever, right? And then setting up a video call and getting to know each other. And how are you proposing an alternative to that? What are you proposing?
So part of that involves actually just sort of reaching out to your pre-existing network and seeing what's on their mind and what they're talking about. And it's people that already kind of know you, and it's about like sort of trading those ideas and figuring out what's what. The other way is, like I said, going to find the opportunities that are actually open and not being addressed. On any given day, we see like $500,000 worth of opportunities just expire unfunded. And it's ridiculous because, you know, unemployment is crazy high. There's a lot of people who are telling me like, hey, I got access capacity, but they don't know where to look. And so, you know, when you join a network like Beaze, you're able to find out about what opportunities are actually in market. And if you're in that sort of category where you see this departure away from the thing that's your core focus, that should be a signal to you to say, like, the market is changing. Maybe I also need to adjust my own offerings to sort of realign with what the market expectations are. And so it requires you to kind of do a little bit of homework up front. And when you join a network like Beaze, we actually push those opportunities to you, so that way you don't have to do that hunting. So a lot of the customers that we speak to, a lot of people that we speak to on a regular basis tell us like, hey, I don't have the bandwidth. It's like, maybe you need to have a better targeting method.
Vivian, I'm sorry, Tulio.
Yeah, Carlos.
Just real quick. I was looking at Beaze, and for some reason, you know, I know there might be like a ton of differences, but in essence, what I understood was that it was some kind of like a meeting place, you know, between vendors and clients. So how do you curate these whoever's going to be participating in this? And the reason why I ask is because I've seen similar types of scenarios, but there's like a process of engagement in which the vendor gets certified or something along those lines. So how do you do that? What's the engagement process for both providers and vendors? Providers and customers.
Yeah, so the most important thing is to let us know that you exist. When we know that you exist and you sort of identify your business in a particular category, be it industry or the services that you offer, we can then start targeting you and letting you know when these leads are actually popping up. So for example, let's say I was looking solely to expand my real estate business, and I know that the federal government actually takes these 30-year leases. All I need to do is to have somebody just let me know, like, hey, by the way, these opportunities exist. I can read those solicitations. I can read all the documents and figure out what do I need to do to be prepared to bid on this work, and then organize my team accordingly. And that will drive the conversation a lot faster. It's like if you just show up at a coffee shop hoping to talk to somebody, you don't know where the conversation is going to go, right? So the actual odds of it being successful are very low. But if I have a very specific topic in mind and say like, hey, I'm looking for, I don't know, landscaping, right, for the next 30 years, the landscaper is going to know exactly what I'm going to be talking about, and they're going to get to the point a lot faster. So it's about sort of fixating that conversation around a true endpoint. Like, this is the goal. This is what we need to get towards. Are you the right party to help me do that? And then we can actually move it forward.
So let's see if I get this right. It's a marketplace, but it's actually an opportunity for vendors to, one, be found, make themselves available, but also companies and individuals who have a need, right? They need to procure services or need to procure product. This is an opportunity for them to post those needs and in the marketplace basically get bids for those services. How does it work so that I don't get, you know, inundated with millions of responses, right? Because I've often seen, like, if you need something, you go online and these aggregators, and then your phone and email blows up for days, and it's like, I'm not doing that again. So how are you avoiding that?
Yeah.
Please tell me you guys avoid that.
No, yeah, you can definitely avoid it. So our system has two sort of methods to kind of get in. So there's the push method where, you know, you let us sort of decide and curate. And when we see that there's enough sort of providers that have already been added to a particular request, we stop, right? Like if there's already 15 people in there, let the 15 sort of duke it out. And if we see people start to drop out or if they become unresponsive, we can sort of plumb in a few more, right? And so there's we know that there's kind of like a limit to how much thrashing you can kind of put through. But we also do a lot of deduplication on our side as well. So for example, let's say I'm interviewing 10 different providers. Because they're all technically in real estate, they might all have very similar line of questioning, like how big is the unit? Is it commercial? Is it residential? How many floors? Do you need security? Like they're gonna ask all pretty much the same thing. But instead of exhausting the hell out of your requester with the same questions 50 times, we just sort of deduplicate all of that. So you only have to ask the question once, the customer replies. And so everybody can kind of see those responses. So this RFP process is able to become much more streamlined and much more pleasant for everybody who's involved because they can just see the entire history. And from there, they can then provide a meaningful bid. You know, for providers who are concerned about differentiation, you know, these are really the moments where you can actually show how you're different from other companies. If you have a better service level agreement, if you respond sooner or faster, if you have a larger field team, if you use particular technology. So you can really sort of start to separate yourself from the pack, at least knowing now the same thing that everybody else knows, which is like the entire problem space. And what's great is that each provider is a subject matter expert. And if I was very junior in a particular subject matter expertise, it would be hard for me to figure out if the person on the other end was telling me the truth. But when you have a whole bunch of subject matter experts, trust me, they're going to try to figure out for you why they are the best solution and why every other solution that everyone else is producing for you is probably false or maybe not as efficient. And that's really what's going to drive the needle. So we're really sort of providing that sort of information symmetry that has not historically existed when you do it the old-fashioned way, which is one-on-one in siloed conversations.
So in essence, you're curating the connections for the people procuring the various services. How is your system doing that? How do you go about getting vendors in there to participate? Or is it an open garden, or how does it work?
So we are in a closed beta program, but we basically notify our network when there's opportunities that arise. And you know, if you don't respond after a certain time, we'll eventually stop notifying you. So it's already kind of like a bit of a self-weeding garden, but we also want people to sort of opt in. So we let you know there's a lead. You take a look at the summary. If it looks interesting to you, you can join. And if it's not interesting to you, you can decline. And over time, we eventually figure out these are the things that you go after, whether it's based on price, based on geolocation, based on customer type, based on the services that we're requesting, right? So we do a little bit of fuzzy matching on both sides, both for the customer to figure out like, hey, what type of providers should I be inviting? And we do on the provider side too. It's like, is this the type of customer that you want? And ultimately, when people have more volume, they have more choice. So then they can start making better choices, right? So if somebody says, I do all kinds of custom software development, well, I think we all know here that not all languages are the same, right? A JavaScript developer is not the same as a .NET developer. But over time, if you keep like selecting only .NET, you start to sort of identify yourself as a .NET developer, and then maybe we only send you .NET things because that's all you're interested in, right? So for us, it's just about getting the right signals and figuring out, oh, this is what you're interested in. Okay, let's just send you those type of opportunities, and let's see where that goes.
Okay, so I really like this, and I think this is what let me see if I got this right. I think that's what makes this unique. Sometimes in these closed garden environments, you're limited to the vendors that are in there, right? So your choice as someone who's looking for services could be limited to a marketplace that maybe doesn't have enough participation. But what I'm hearing is let's say I'm in a city or a town where there aren't that many people in the network right now, in the marketplace.
Right.
You will send out invites to vendors in the area to say, hey, we have customers that want your services. All you have to do is opt in. Is that what you're doing? And how are you vetting which ones to send it to?
Yep. I mean, it's based on a whole bunch of signals, and there's a patent around that. So I can't get into the full details. But the idea is that if you are responsive, if you are actively looking, we will eventually figure it out and we'll reach out to you. And that's how we found the first 140,000 businesses that we communicate with. It's, hey, we saw this opportunity. It looks like we scraped your site. We sort of figured out this is kind of similar to what you do. Are you interested in taking on this work? And, you know, it's a chance, right? Some people are like, oh, that's too far. It's just not part of the way that we do business. I can't accept this lead. And other times they're like, oh yeah, I work coast to coast. And so more and more, we're starting to see people be a little bit more flexible into how they approach business, and the types of opportunities that are being presented to them that are in fact high value become more interesting, because they're like, well, I don't see the things that I would normally do. Let me see if I can shift a little bit. And that's really important in staying alive, you know, especially in times like COVID, where there's just not a lot of business happening. You got to take advantage of it when it's there.
Right. I'm starting to see how your background's coming into the picture with this product. So you essentially created a dynamic local listing platform that ties in searchers or customers with vendors. It's brilliant. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that it's curated and I have a lot of controls over it. Let's shift a little bit about your culture. Like, I get why I would want to use this as a consumer, as a business looking to procure services. I get why companies would want to participate in this so that they can proactively receive demand for work. What makes it interesting for someone to want to work for Beaze?
Well, I am a woman in technology. I know how hard it's been for to succeed in this space, and you know, people who are looking to have real opportunity to work for a true meritocracy are somewhat limited. You know, we wanted to bring that front and foremost to the table, and we've had the pleasure of working with folks that are from all walks of life. Some of them are also mothers and fathers as well, and they like the fact that their ideas are really seriously being considered. You know, I didn't come from a great deal of money. I have a pretty humble background, but you know, I feel like my parents gave me what I needed to do in order to be successful, and that was about listening, taking everyone really seriously, treating them with respect, and giving them the opportunity to really shine. And so, some of our best ideas have come from our developers in the lowest ranks, and that's actually really important because they know stuff that I clearly don't know. And the fact that we can trust each other enough to share these ideas is super powerful. So, you know, if you're hungry and ambitious and you want to help, you know, small businesses grow to become enterprise, you know, those are the types of folks that we want to work with. And, you know, you got to be a little fearless and you got to take the leap.
Vivian, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Well, we're talking about networking and the COVID day and age specifically. And I see that in your bio right there on the landing page, I see that you're very active on Quora. So you answer questions on Quora. So I just, you know, I thought I'm going to take a peek, and I see the types of questions that are being asked and the types of responses. So I think this is a very interesting approach. So my question is, because a lot of people are, like Tulio said, experiencing Zoom fatigue and trying to get a meeting here and a meeting there, would you say that these types of venues like Quora, like LinkedIn, and many others, do you think there should be like we should start interacting with among professionals or among companies, B2B companies? What's the best way to do this, and what types of approaches shall we follow in terms of making this an effective strategy for networking?
That's a really great question. I mean, it really, I kind of look at everything from a marketing funnel standpoint. Are you trying to get people to just know who you are? Or are you trying to get them to transact, right? So, you know, for me, if you're like very talkative, you've got lots of great ideas, you're trying to get people enthusiastic, to me, it sounds like a brand awareness campaign. Yeah, go and blog a bit on Reddit, go blog a bit on Quora. Let people know that you have these great ideas and this interesting way to approach things, and people will come to you. I can't tell you how many times I've just posted stuff on on LinkedIn and on Quora, and then I get a note after saying, "Oh my God, that was so inspirational. Can I be your friend? Can we connect? Can we talk about things?" So getting your ideas out there is really, really important. And using language that resonates well with that audience is also equally important, right? Like the way you talk to a CEO is not the same way you would talk to, somebody who's just recent graduate, So you kind of have to like craft your messaging a bit carefully, and pick meaningful conversations where you can really make a difference. You can't comment on everything. There's just way too many questions out there. But if there's things that you're really interested about, or you feel like people are just doing fundamentally wrong, and you really want to get into that debate, go for it. Let people know that you have an opinion, but do so respectfully, right? You don't want to rub anybody the wrong way on the internet. It's up there forever.
Oh yeah, there are tons of trolls out there that are just there to cause harm and wreak havoc, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we should keep an eye for those and just get rid of them. Thank you. Sorry, Tulio, back to you.
Oh no worries. Great. Well, so how long has this been around? How long has the marketplace been in place now?
So we started in May 2019, and then we officially launched this version of the beta at the end of July. So we've had a pretty big pickup, and so far we've got, I believe, 90,000 leads. It's worth $160 billion. We've only got, a handful of customers that are just going after them, right? So we're really trying to get people to realize, there's a whole bunch of money out there. Please go get it. It's just sitting there waiting for people to bid on.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, so what's the sort of trajectory that you're looking for in terms of your milestone that says, hey, you know what, we did it. We've succeeded at this. Do you want to reach 1 million customers, 1 million businesses? Where are you heading with this?
Oh, that's such a loaded question. Well, there are about 37 million businesses here in the US, and there's more even abroad. I think if we even get to, 10, maybe 20% market penetration here in the US, I think we're really going to start to see some real change. And, for me, coming from ads, I know that advertisement is an extremely expensive and wasteful game to play. And the only people who can afford to play those games are like the Fortune 100 list, right? They're spending like 7 to 8 figures a month on advertising. Small business can't do that, right? You got to be really sort of tactical. So what we're trying to do here is make it truly sustainable for business to reach each other and to get stuff done. And if we're really successful, maybe we'll be able to bring down the costs of services and make it affordable for everyone to be successful. And I think that would be the most amazing outcome.
I love it. So, there's obviously a lot of established businesses that will be part of this, and there's a great opportunity for independents in the gig economy to take advantage of this as well.
Totally.
I would assume. Excellent. All right. Well, congratulations. It sounds like an amazing platform. We wish you a lot of success with it. As we wrap up, one question I think would be very appropriate. Is this your first startup as an entrepreneur?
No, this is not my first startup.
Okay, so it's not your first rodeo. No. Tell us a little bit about your journey, what it's been like as an entrepreneur. You worked for some pretty large companies. You made the shift at one point. What was that like for you? What did you learn about yourself? And what are you doing different this time?
Yeah, it is always a great privilege to work for amazing companies like AWS and Google and all that. But at the end of the day, the thing that really moves the needle for me is helping the businesses that are around me. I can count on all fingers and toes, mom and pop shops that have closed down, not from lack of being good at what they do, but maybe not because they were good at managing the business and finding customers and marketing themselves. And to me, that's really heartbreaking, And I think right now, especially in times like COVID, where people are losing their jobs and they are having to kind of go out on their own, set up a shingle on the door and go to work, it's going to be really super challenging. So I think giving the people the tools and the mechanisms by which the enterprise people play is going to be super important. And then they can really focus on what they're good at, Like if you're an amazing developer, develop, right? Don't be marketing, don't be advertising, just really focus on what you're good at. And I think the real value is going to be there.
Sounds like you have a mission there, Vivian.
I do. And I've got some folks who are going to hopefully help me to get there as well.
All right. Well, it's been great to have you on the show. We wish you a lot of success. We'll definitely keep up with your progress and might have to have you come back in a few years to talk about what else you've learned and how it's reshaped the marketplace. Thanks for being with us today. Carlos, what do we got coming up rest of the week and next week?
Yeah, Tulio. Well, this tomorrow we're going to be speaking with William Santana, the CEO of Nightscope, on the subject of creatively commercializing self-driving AI. What are the near-term possibilities? And we're talking about self-driving vehicles. Okay, so that's like and all the tech behind it with AI. And then on Thursday we'll be speaking with Ran Yam, the CEO of Novasight, on the topic of using Netflix and Disney to cure vision disorders. So those are this week, right here on Dojo Live at 1 p.m. Pacific. Keep an eye for that, folks.
I'm really looking forward to Thursday's conversation because it talks in the face of, you know, what parents have said, or we even as parents tell our children, don't watch too much television, it's going to hurt your eyes. So I want to hear the opposite of that. Looking forward to that. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, stay safe.
Stay safe.